Yi Li, who's Associate Professor at the School of Politics and International Relations and Director of the Taiwan Research Hub at the University of Nottingham. Thanks very much for joining us on the programme. First of all, tell us a little bit about who Lai Ching-te is. I mean, he's the son of a coal miner, isn't he? Known as a very hard-working man.
Thank you for inviting me. Yes, you are absolutely right. President Lai, he is from a working class of the new Taipei city now, and he has served as the mayor of Tainan in 2010, and he has been seen as a rather pro-Taiwan independence supporter in that sense. And he has served as an incumbent vice president under President Tsai-Ing-wen's government. So one other note I would like to add is he is also physician. So he had his medical background, but before he also works in a hospital and working to help the community. So he has a rather diverse background, if you wouldn't mind me to say so, before he turned himself into his political career.
So as he takes power, what are his main challenges? I mean, of course, everybody talks, first of all, about the relationship with China.
Well, as you may well know that any Taiwanese president's challenging is the relationship with China. So that's for one, and especially as I mentioned before, that President Tsai before was seen as a more of the pro-independence president. So the challenging is greater and bigger with the Chinese government, if you like. But apart from that, actually, President Tsai also faced a domestic situation, which is parliamentary in a sense that the DPP, his own party, is not the majority party in the legislative yuan. Actually, the combination of the KMT and the third party TPP, their members are more than the President Tsai's party, DPP. So in that sense, the domestic issues would be facing quite a lot of challenging if President Lai and his party wants to push through any political bills. Added on that, Taiwan also has been facing quite dramatic inflation and also low salary. The young people don't feel they have the future. That is what President Lai is facing, added on, of course, the China factor.
Yeah, well, let's talk about the parliament then, because it is going to be difficult for him. As you said, it doesn't have a majority. There was a big fight even, wasn't there, in the parliament on Friday between the different sides, as it were. How hard is it going to be for him, do you think, to get his agenda through? Because he's got lots of other things to address, such as the economy, hasn't he?
Exactly. The fight on Friday was has been noticed, but I also wanted to remind all of our viewers that actually the legislative fight is not a news to Taiwanese people. 20 years ago has been fighting like that as well. But what I wanted to answer to your question is how easy or how difficult for him to pass through his agenda, his political thoughts that he wants to put through. I think the winning card is to be aligned with the third party, which is TPP, because they are the key minority for the DPP to gain and to align with. And that is quite tricky as well, because the third party TPP, the party leader, Ko Wen-je, is quite, he can say a little bit more hedging between the big opposition party, KMT, and DPP. Apart from the aligning with the TPP, the third party, DPP itself, Democratic Progressive Party itself, also have many fractions. So for President Lai to unify with the inner party fraction is another challenging for himself.
So we should go back and talk once again about China, because we talked about it very briefly at the beginning. But already he's sort of sent a bit of a broadside, hasn't he, to China, warning them to keep out of Taiwanese affairs. I mean, is that likely, or do you think China is going to keep pushing away?
China, in my observation, will keep pushing away. That is for sure. The median line of the Taiwan Strait for the Chinese government has already disappeared. They disregard of the median line in the Taiwan Strait, and they took Taiwan's space as the airspace as their backyard, which is really unfortunate situation. However, there's also one thing that we need to observe. China-Taiwan situation, of course, is about China and Taiwan, but it's not just about China and Taiwan. We also need to take into the other parties' influence as well, for instance, USA. So it is important to see the dynamic between China, Taiwan, and USA to see into that situation. I think both sides, China and Taiwan, would still be very vocal to warn each other, not to offend each other. That is continuity. I don't see there will be any change. But that would be something very interesting to observe, which is the US election in November, who will be coming into the leader in the White House, which is important key to China, Taiwan, and I believe to many other countries in the rest of the world.
What would Donald Trump mean, do you think?
That would be a very dangerous signal in many other ways. In many cases, one would say that Donald Trump probably will go very abrupt, really extreme in terms of his policy. But in other ways, I would also see that White House, the organization, will hold him back into line. Ultimately, America or White House, in essence, do not want any change of the status quo between China and Taiwan, and that is what everyone would hope to see. One added point to say that is the just coming into the presidential office in Taiwan, Vice President Beijing Xiao. She is very excellent diplomat. She was before she took on the vice president seat to the U.S. So the Taiwan-U.S. relationship with the Vice President Beijing Xiao, we believe that it would be more smooth and would be able to see more of the light, hopefully.
So just in 15, 30 seconds, if you can, do you think those war games that we've seen over the last few weeks, the last few months, will continue then, notably up to the US election?
I do think that the war game would continue, but the war game also is a gesture to voice out. But what in reality that would happen, one needs to be careful and cautious. I wouldn't suggest that there will be definitely a war to come, but just the readiness and to prepare if that would come, because no one can predict, but also no one can say that really will have a war to come, because Chinese government also is calculative, also is cautious. They would need to perform those war games for their domestic population purpose.
Chun-Yi Li, thanks very much for being with us on the programme today, Associate Professor at the School of Politics and International